Mr. Ken Crispin from CAC, Citizens Environmental Advocacy Centre. Welcome, Ken, and as I've said to you, 10 minutes. If you wish us to ask you some questions, can you please fit us into that time frame?
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Okay, I'll kick it off.
Okay, you've all got a handout there today. Now, if you could please, in your own time at home, read it very thoroughly, all of it, because, you know, we produce this stuff so that you can learn. It's important here.
Thank you.
You've got to have you've got a case to fight with, and the only way you can do it is with documents that I'll provide you with. We've gone through a hard yard here at the Parliamentary Commissioner for the Environment to back us on everything we're doing. Right now, I'm going to show you, there's the first page that came to you. It's from Radio New Zealand this morning. And it shows proof the government does not have a plan when it comes to environmental impact on roading. Roading. Came out that they were served a Official Information Act, and the Information Act come back and said they have no plan or policy, they have no information on impact from roading. That's where we're at. Second page that you got is very important, and I'm going to read this one to you. If you don't know it, the most noxious thing on the roads today is called tyre pollution. It's not what comes out of the exhaust pipe, it comes off the roads of the tyres. The tyres are made of a petrochemical, two ingredients, styrene is one, and the other one is a very, very toxic chemical. I should know, butadiene. I got poisoned in Canada with that. And people should die with it if you don't get rid of it. It's in the CAS records as being a carcinogenic chemical. And it comes off these tyres every day you live. Can I read to you this? Tyres are made from an oil and the distillates. I've told you about what it's made from. Each time a tyre rotates, it loses one layer of rubber. It's not a rubber, it's an artificial rubber. About a billionth of a metre thick. If you do the numbers, this works out to be about 4 million carbon atoms lost each rotation. Now that's pretty bad to think about that. So what comes off the tyres? In a busy road of 25,000 vehicles a day, and that could be the expressway, it could be Kitara Road, it could be Kennedy Road. 25,000 vehicles a day generate 9 kilograms of tyre dust per kilometre. Now, do you know where that tyre dust goes? It goes down the drains, through the aquifer, into our rivers and streams, and into our water in the aquifer. We're drinking it. Now, I think you heard from a lot of people, Paul Bailey was talking about the quality of water. The important thing is, tyre pollution is a very dramatic problem we have there today. Nobody, even government, even talks about it. You can actually talk about it now because I gave you the proof. The proof is in the second to last page on the handout, and it tells you the proof and evidence you need. Tyre pollution on truck tyres is very bad. So, you know, that's all I'm going to say to you. I just want to tell you that all I gave you today was proof and evidence from the PCE report from 2006 that the expressway out there in 286 was dangerous, but people use trains, don't use roading. We're getting to a stage now, we've got people saying, turn it into another truck route. What do we need more trucks for? Trains don't have tyres. So we don't want to use tyres. Right, well, it's pretty important. I didn't want to leave you with a lot of stuff, but you look, take the stuff home and read it, please, because we're pensioners, and I mean, we do this off our backs, virtually, and it's important you learn about it. I want you to ask me questions. It's the most important that I learn what you people need to ask me.
Thank you, Mr. Crispin. Can I kick one off? We had a discussion with a previous submitter about people blissfully unaware about the rail proposal that the council put up a couple of annual plans ago, I think, or the first annual plan that this council put together. Can you, in all your travels through here to Gisborne, do you think it's reasonably well known that the council was negotiating or discussing rail with Kiwi Rail?
Well, yes. Kiwi Rail are an animal to themselves. They really don't want to let anything go.
Can I rephrase it? Do you think we did consultation, people knew what we were doing? That's the question.
Well, look, everything can be done more transparently than it has been, but I think the news press releases were very good because you kept coming up saying, you know, this is our plan and we would like to proceed down the path. I can't say that's a problem. I like to see a feed of press releases because if you don't get it out there, nobody will know. That's good.
Thank you. Okay, other questions on rail? Councillor Dick.
Ken, you're also a resident of Gisborne.
Yep.
What's the view up there, and what sort of action, if anything, is happening
Okay.
in that regard?
Well, most of the people up in Gisborne want the rail. If you talk to anybody on the street, they say, get it going tomorrow. People in Gisborne are feeling like we feel here, isolated, because the East Coast is being left out of the loop. You must know one thing, that they're planning to move all the freight to Tauranga as we speak. They want to cut this whole district out. Hawke's Bay, Gisborne. Believe me on this. So Gisborne people feel so isolated. They have a real connection to Gisborne, to Napier and Wairau. When I talk to people, I've been here 11 years up there, I just stand in awe sometimes when they talk fondly about, I used to come down on a rail car, and I used to stay in somebody's place in the Hastings, and I used to go down to White Park and see my cousins, you know, and they go back on Sunday night and have a wonderful time. They miss rail. They're going to know. It's only administration, I'm afraid, that they're a little bit backhanded now. Ming is keen to work on with other people on the rail. Believe me, he will. At the back of his heart, he wants to make sure rail survives. But he's got so many pressures coming to him. Believe me, every day he's got somebody gnawing at him. You know, I won't say politically, but rest assured there is politics here.
Councillor Bevan.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for your submission, Ken. There's quite a lot of material that you've provided to us, both with your written submission and just in the last few minutes. If I was to distill all of that down, the message I get here is you want the Regional Council to support the resurrection of the rail link to Gisborne. Have I missed anything else, or is that what all this is about?
And no, I just want to make sure that you people know how to fight it. If I could go to government, I sent 105 letters to John Key over 4 years and they've got one answer. I went to his secretary and they sent me evidence.
Did you try signing as someone else?
Oh, look, honestly, I can't get to them, mate. All I can do is talk to you guys. So you've got to take what I've got people all over the country sending me stuff, right? How am I going to disseminate it if I can't talk? Gosh, it's dry here. Oh.
Any further questions?
I think it's important, though. It's important I came down last night, right, from Gisborne. I drove all the way from Matawai all down here. And you couldn't believe the amount of trucks on the road at 8 and 9 at night. I never saw this before. Truly and honestly, we come down after about 6, 7 o'clock at night, and you'd see maybe about one trucker, 15, 10 minutes. There was one every corner you came across. They're moving at night time now. They're trying, I think, to spread the load out during the day so you don't get masses of trucks. We have 5, like 5 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, you can see all the logging trucks that go down the expressway up past our place.
Ken, we're out of time, mate.
Yep.
But you've made your point. You made your point very well. So
Right.
thank you very much for your submission and your presentation. And you've given us a bit to think about. And we will be deliberating tomorrow, starting at 11, not 9 as advertised. Okay. So
Thank you very much. Look, this is the best council I've ever been in front of. Tomorrow I go in front of Napier. Hastings on Friday.
Okay.
But I feel so at home here.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Neil Kirkton, which is submission number 99. Welcome, Mr. Kirkton.
This is the best council I've ever been.
The standard to live up to, no
Yes,
doubt.
absolutely.
So you know the drill, 10 minutes,
Sure.
etc. So the floor is yours.
Listen, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the council. I've taken a little bit of time this year just to throw in a submission, and it has a couple of aspects that I'm just hoping you might want to pick up on. I think the first point I'm trying to make is that looking at the strategic plan and the annual plans, we're coming up to the third decade where we've used a similar type of template, similar approach to the planning and work of the council. I haven't got the big document with me, but it's about yay high. You know the one I'm talking about. I think it's your big working document. The point I want to make about it is that looking back on those in nearly 3 decades, you've got to ask yourself how much has actually been achieved by council during that time. Vast amount, tomes of documentation, some of those here produced, but in actual terms of impact on the environment, I just wondered, we probably planned for what we've got, and when we don't specify the things we want to achieve, then you're certain to end up at that point. And I made the point by inserting into the work program a couple of indicators of performance, and I've said there, if we were to insert into add some wording to the service level and performance targets for, this is under land management, at least 10 hectares of significant wetlands protected annually, and at least 10k of riparian margin enhanced annually. You know exactly where you stand. You've either done it or you haven't. And the documents that I've seen and have been party of for a good part of that 3 decades, I'm looking back on and saying they're no longer sufficient, and they, in my mind, haven't delivered what the intent was from day one. So my advice and encouragement is to now zero base the council's planning processes, decide what it is that you want to proceed with and achieve, and get on and do that. My concern is that we have invested vast sums of money in documents, and I'm currently looking at the Coastal Environment Plan. Probably, if you added it all up, $1 million worth of investment goes into the plan. You have to ask yourself, what does it actually achieve? Would we have been better to have just simply got a map out, drawn some lines on it and published that, and relied on the science and inputs of other sources to fill in the gaps, if you like, if that was a requirement of the Resource Management Act? My point is this: we're now in the situation, particularly, for example, the coastal plan, of having to come and redesign, rework and rethink coastal strategies. This plan, while it fulfills the requirements of the Resource Management Act, doesn't actually set out targets and outcomes that we want to achieve for the marine environment. Turning quickly, I'm aware of the limited time that I've got. I've noted the report made by staff in terms of my submission, where I'd suggested that we look at a plan, for example, for the Lower Taipo stream, and the response was That's not currently in the land management strategy and operational plan, and nor is it likely to be singularly in that. It interested me that that was the case, given that the council has produced tomes of information about the impact of urban streams on the estuary, and yet defence of the urban streams is not currently part of the land management approach. I'm intrigued that it would continue to remain outside, and I use the Lower Taipo Stream as an example of that. The entire network of urban streams feeding our most significant wetland are not part of the land management approach. I hope they are ultimately when they come up with a new draft. I also note the response from staff that says that work is underway with the various respective councils on the Ahuriri Estuary Management Plan. That's a good thing. I'm pleased that they're doing that. I'm not sure whether the same staff have reviewed the one we already have and the efforts that went into the 1992 plan. I'd suggest that that document in itself is a testament to, if you like, a lack of planning and outcome targeting that has resulted in very little of a plan already in place actually being achieved. So that is the nature of my submission, Mr. Chair and Council. I would encourage Council, and I see that there's appears to be some enthusiasm for support of a much more rigorous, vigorous and demanding planning framework for our coastal marine areas, and I look forward to the Council's outputs on that. I'm just a little concerned that if we don't set reasonable and achievable targets in that, we'll end up in another decade not having achieved much at all in that environment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kirkton. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Kirkton, for your analysis of the plan that you were very much part of approving. Are you aware of the work of TANK, which is currently looking at including that catchment, Ahuriri? And are you aware of the proposals to take not just the stakeholder group, but to engage wider members of the public? Because you're not represented in any group in that process, are you?
No, I'm not. And good question, Councillor. Good old Tank, still around, 5 years later, not having achieved a heck of a lot. And I don't know, I probably could comment on why it hasn't achieved a lot and haven't produced a lot. One hopes that it does. Again, to me, it typifies the direction of travel of council, the engagement of council has with processes that simply do not meet the need, do not come out with observable, measurable outcomes that affect the environment. The tank, and I think it's well named, it's just a tank that sits there, doesn't move. And we need to come to a new place. Council needs to come to a new place where we actually achieve things, stop talking, producing documents, and actually say, this year, in all of those environments, we planted X amount of riparian and we prevented or had a significant impact on the environment.
Ed, will you engage in that opportunity through the public to put your concerns forward?
Oh, look, happy to do so, but I'm not confident that the process and approaches that I was part of myself 4 or 5 years ago are actually going to achieve the results that we hope for. So I'm suggesting maybe we simply limit the consultation. We've already done 5 years of that. Get on with it and spend the money on planting trees and preventing the contamination of our waterways.
Thanks, Chair. I love your put more fish in the bay concept. I think it's really fantastic. You've targeted marine protection areas as one of the ways of doing that. Have you got any thoughts on where you would put one?
No, I don't. We probably need about 3 years of research into where we might put one, but I would simply draw one from Portland Island across to kidnappers and say, everyone keep out of there. I think that would be a useful thing to do. Interested in the other concept that Stuart Nash is talking about in terms of depth, but I think what we don't see is the important thing that if we identify marine protection areas, police them well, then we'll get some go forward.
Councillor Barker.
I was interested in your comments about the Ahuriri estuary. I share the concerns people have generally. It seems to me that what this council has done is relied upon its regulatory framework rather than just providing community leadership. I think they're quite different things. And I think there could be quite a significant improvement to the Ahuriri estuary if we set out what our objectives were. For example, people have unpainted roofs which have zinc in them, wash down the stormwater into the estuary, heavy metals accumulate. Takes a while to put a regulation, but if we said to people, we'd like to paint your roofs, do these things, I'm sure the public would respond to that, and we could get significant improvements without actually having to regulate, but by providing leadership within the community. What do you think of that?
Councillor Barker, my concern is that the regulatory framework that you pointed to has not worked. If you think about the discharges from the Napier City Council stormwater,
Sure.
then that same lead, whatever it is, coming off that roof, someone washing their car, etc., is finding its way unabated into the estuary. And what we've, I'm aware of it. I'm out of time, but
Happy to debate.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Kirkton, for your submission and presenting, and we'll be deliberating on all things submission related tomorrow. So,
look, I can't wait, bated breath.
thank you. Okay. Thank you for that. Now we have Ormley Chalet Group, Mr. Apted. Welcome.
Thank you very much for the message.
Oh, excuse me. So, Mr. Apted, 10 minutes. If you wish us to ask you some questions, can you please allow some time in that 10 minutes? But the time is yours now.
Will do. Thank you very much, first of all, for giving me the chance to attend a meeting and speak in support of our submission. I just want to expand a bit on I presume you all have a copy of my submission and the staff response to it. I just want to expand a bit on my submission to explain things a bit better. We have 4 small 2-bedroom cottages in a subdivision in a rural area. Our cottages used to be the overflow accommodation from the Ormley Lodge. However, in early 2000, they became surplus to requirements, so were subdivided off and each sold as individual houses. The cottages had been connected to the lodge's septic tank up until that time, and then at that stage the septic tank packed up, so it was agreed that we would set up our own wastewater system. When we installed our wastewater plant, we agreed that rather than each having our own plant, it made economic sense to install a plant capable of treating the 4 houses. This was agreed to by council, and we were granted a resource management consent to do so. The consent stated that we achieved in the end, amongst other things, that the joint connection would have minimal effect on the environment. Now, the staff response to our submission advises that if the 4 houses had had a treatment plant each, rather than just going through the one, they would be exempt from the water science charges. However, because our wastewater is treated through one plant, the council have decided that the houses no longer meet the exempt criteria. They've reached this conclusion by describing our system as multiple houses using a single system. That decision obviously does not take into account that the same total volume of treated wastewater is discharged into our soak field, whether it is from the single system or from the 4 individual systems. So what we're saying is that we have a system here that will treat 4 houses and have the same effect as if each one had its own individual system. The cumulative effect is exactly the same using either method, whether you have the 1 or the 4. So we feel that the decision that they decided we could be described as multiple houses using a single system is flawed. As a result of that decision, it seems the council decided we need to be treated, say, as an apartment block or a body corporate, and in that case we would have to be subject to what they call a PI, which is a pollution index. That pollution index is assessed at 1.875. Now that is supposed to be done by a scientist. I don't know what scientist or who, but it was supposed to be decided that way. The result of that, of course, is that the charge to us, instead of a single house, is charged at 1.875 times more than that. So for the 4 houses. So instead of getting a bill for our share of the water science charges for the likes of 4 individual houses, which should have been exempt, suddenly becomes $1,000 instead of about, or I would think it'd be $250 or something like that. So I've been trying to have this changed through the council themselves. I've tried to talk to them about it and say, well, it's exactly the same amount of wastewater that's going, treated wastewater, by the way. It's all chemically treated, and it's pure water going back into the ground through our soak field. That they seem to think that maybe there is some pollution there somewhere because we've got multiple houses using it. This effectively penalises us. We're definitely private individual houses, and we pay our rates based on that. Each house pays its own rates to the Hastings District Council and the Hawke's Bay Regional Council as a private dwelling. So we can hardly be the likes of an apartment block or body corporate or whatever. It's the doubling effect of the Section 36 charge is unreasonable in view of the fact that the treated water discharged is regularly tested and has always met the Resource Management Act standards for discharge to land. That being the case, we cannot see how the application of a pollution factor can be justified. In conclusion, we recommend that our and similar cases be considered in the annual plan in 2 ways, either as special cases and be charged a minimal sum to more closely reflect the treatment of single domestic buildings, or we can add in under the item of allocation of charges in the current current annual plan. That's Section 3 under under the Hawke's Bay Regional Council's charges of the annual plan. We recommend that you could put in domestic on-site wastewater consents from a single domestic dwelling or equivalent, I think are the operative words, are excluded from the charging. Now those are 2 solutions that we feel that should be considered. I didn't want to come here and just have a moan about, we're being overcharged. I really wanted to see if I could come up with a reasonable solution that could be considered. And that is what I want to do from here. I've got no more to say on it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Could I ask the first one just very quickly? you've got written here, technically correct conclusion, it is in fact that we've been charged $1,035.39. Is that per each dwelling?
For the 4 houses.
So that's so $250 odd each
Yes.
in
that's
there.
correct.
Okay, no, that clears that up for me. Any other questions? Thank you. Well, I think you've presented your case very well.
Thank you
And,
very much. I'm a rookie at it. This is my first time.
Yeah,
so.
you're not too bad, if I may say so. So thank you for your submission. Thank you for your very clear explanation. There's no questions. We'll move on to the next submitter. We'll be dealing with all these submissions tomorrow, with the hearing resuming